Okay, happy Mother's Day. The mothers, we love you, we respect you, and may God bless your mothers. So if you have a mother, not even, it doesn't have to your mother, but any mother around you, say Happy Mother's Day. Yeah, Happy Mother's Day. I'm proud. I am proud of all the mothers in our church. This is not only my feeling, I think so, but all of you feel the same way. We have great mothers in our church. And may God enrich mothers' souls as we listen to Him this morning. Mary, do you know Mary? Yes, the mother of Jesus. Her life is unique, right? And no mother in the world would have the same experience. She conceived the Son of God, nursed Him, and raised Him. However, studying about her life would be beneficial to mothers and all of us. First of all, Mary is a humble person. So when an angel Gabriel told her that she was going to conceive Christ, she was shocked and puzzled, but she said, it's Luke chapter 1:38, "Behold, the maidservant of the Lord, let it be to me according to your word." So she had all the reasons to resist this invitation. Since she was engaged. And the angel was talking about having a baby out of wedlock. It isn't always a good idea, right? And if a baby is from someone else than a future husband, it's worse. In the first century in Israel, it was the worst. It was capital punishment. Not only shameful act, but could be stoned to death. We know that, right? However, Mary put away all her agenda and humbly obeyed God's providence. If she wasn't a humble woman, she wouldn't accept it. And there is a reason that God chose her to be the mother of Jesus. If I am not mistaken, the book of Acts chapter 1 is the last appearance of Mary in the New Testament. As we studied the book of Acts, and after Jesus ascended to heaven, how many people? 120 people got together to pray. Then among them, there were 12 disciples and other disciples and Jesus' brothers. And Mary, the mother of Jesus, was there with them. And they were there to pray together in unity. Do you know what? She wasn't just one of 120 in the upper room. She was the mother of the Messiah. Who could have the highest authority among them? It could be Mary, right? The mother of Messiah, Christ. And she could be the power behind the throne. Now, even though some denominations cherish her as another mediator out of her will, she became invisible in the history of the church after Acts chapter 1. And humility is an essential virtue. How did it affect children if a mother is conceited? It would be difficult for children to satisfy their mothers, right? And nothing would be enough, no matter what they have done, what they do. And her conceit would prevent her children to grow and develop their lives in the way that God implanted in them when God created them. And only true humility helps mothers to see God's way in children's life. It'll help them to put away their own agenda and obey God's leading. And true humility is one of the most beautiful things in the world. And only humble mothers can teach their children to be humble. Do you agree with that? Okay, like most mothers, Mary was perplexed as she grew up Jesus. We don't know much about Jesus' life before he started his public ministry, but still Bible records some of them. And one of them happened during the Passover festival when Jesus was how many years old? 12 years old. Now after celebrating the feast, Mary, Joseph, and many others were returning home, and Jesus wasn't with his parents. And they thought he was with their relatives. No, where was he? He was in the temple having discussions about Bible with the great Bible teachers at that time. So when they found him in the temple, Mary said, "Son, why have you done this to us?" Have you ever asked this question to your children? Why have you done this? Look, your father and I have sought you anxiously. And he said to them, Luke 2:49, why did you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business? Okay, whenever you ask your kids, what have you done? And they explain and you do not understand what they're saying. Same way, Mary and Joseph didn't understand what Jesus meant by that. They were one of the parents that were known about their child's future by God, which we do not know. So Gabriel instructed them, both Mary and Joseph, but still they didn't understand what Jesus was doing. So parents, not only mothers, do we often puzzle why our children do certain things? Yeah? And sometimes be irritated, angry? Yeah? And mothers, even though your children came out of your body, once they were connected to your body, a part of your body, that's why sometimes it's difficult for mothers to understand the difference between mothers and them, their children. But you should admit that you don't know them. Many things are unknown and mysterious at the same time. When Zechariah wrote the name of his son, John, after he had been mute while his wife was carrying the baby, but he was able to speak again after writing John, John, of course in Hebrew. Then people were amazed and said, Luke chapter 1:57, what kind of a child will this be? And the hand of the Lord was with him. Yes, not only John, but we don't know what kind of our children there will be. God has special plan for each child. Even though Mary knew that Jesus was the Messiah, the Christ, she didn't know one day her son was going to give sight to the blind, lame to walk, dead to rise. One day, even she had to accept that her son was her Savior. Mothers, we should remember that we don't know what our children will become. Our role is to obey God and respect the way that God has made them be. Just talk about my life a little bit. Before I was 30 years old, I hadn't thought about being a pastor even in a dream. Not for a second did my parents. So when they couldn't understand me when I told them I was going to enroll in the seminary. And they were very perplexed and disappointed. Okay, let's go back to Mary. She was I'm going to share another incident. She was with her stepsons when they came to Capernaum to take Jesus home back. Why did they do that? Because his brothers, Jesus' brothers, thought that he was crazy out of his mind. And she was with there, even though she didn't think Jesus was out of his mind, but she was there with her sons. She didn't fully understand what he was going to be. Mothers, you often don't understand your children, don't you? Their peculiar behaviors could be from God. Sometimes we do not want to accept it, but that's possible. They could be doing what God implanted in their hearts. And you don't want to challenge God's wisdom, do you? Let's talk a little bit about siblings. So Mary had sibling rivalry and conflicts among her children. And Jesus' brothers contended him, and two incidents are written in the Bible. One happened when Jesus started in his public ministry, which I already shared, and the second time happened when his ministry was almost over. Okay, only two incidents? I don't think so. There are many incidents, but the Bible only wrote two incidents. So parents, if you have more than one child, have you experienced the similar thing? Brothers and sisters fighting together? Yeah? It happens. It happens, right? And Mary experienced it too. However, as I shared with you at the beginning of the sermon, Jesus' brothers they were with the disciples in the upper room and prayed together. I don't know when they reconciled. But please don't despair when they treated each other as an enemy. And home is a first society that they learn to treat others. And parents can guide them but cannot dictate their social skills. So Mary experienced the most hurting moments as a mother. That's another story. It was death of his son. Nothing could be sadder than this. Even natural death, or even death by sickness or accidents, they're sad, right? But Mary was seeing her son dying on the cross. One of the most humiliated and painful ways to die. But Mary had to be there. And as we recall the moments, we know that until the last moment, Jesus cared for his mother. He asked his disciple, John, to take care of his mother, and asked his mother to take John as her son. As in John 19:26-27, when Jesus therefore saw his mother and disciple whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, Woman, which means mother, behold your son. Talking about John. Then he said to the disciple, Behold your mother. And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own home. We have to understand that Jesus was suffering, right? He was dying on the cross. But at the same time, he was accomplishing his mission. Did you hear me? He was suffering and dying, but at the exact same time, he was accomplishing his mission. He had to go through that suffering time. And soon he said, "It is finished." So even though it was painful, there was nothing Mary could do for her son. And even though she could do something, she was not supposed to interfere the suffering, because Jesus had to go their way. Not only Mary, but most mothers often have to see the suffering of their children. But do you know what? Sometimes suffering comes with good reasons. Sometimes suffering is a part of the growing process. And interfering could bring more harm than good. Now, I'm not a farmer, so I don't know much about hatching eggs. I don't know whether I've ever seen it. In really hatching eggs. But there should be reasons that chicks have to break shells by themselves to be born. Not mothers break the shell. And yesterday afternoon, I watched a video clip from BBC Earth. And the narrator said that hunger gives young eagle to push to leave its nest and learn how to fly. Which means mother eagle does not feed the baby eagle when it reaches a certain time. So that the baby eagle has desire to leave the nest to find the food. In a way, they learn. And it's painful to see the babies being hungry and crying. But even eagles know that that's the process. That something has to be done. Sometimes mothers must push children into difficult situations, like eagles, to be them tough enough to live in this world. It would be aching and painful to see children go through difficult times. It requires a lot of patience and faith in God to see them without unnecessary interruptions in their life. Mothers are the greatest support system for children apart from the Father in heaven. Mothers, you are the first and last fortress to protect the children. See, you are the fortress that shouldn't be overcome by anyone in the world. So whenever a child happens, your bosom is the place children can come back. And no matter what happens, you shouldn't stop being hopeful for your children. And I believe being a mother is the most sacred and delicate job in the world. And mothers, we cherish you this morning. We love you and respect you. And God bless you. Amen.